So good afternoon and welcome to Are You Ready to Borrow? As you continue to log on, please use our chat box to put the name of your business, your name, and if you've ever tried to borrow a loan, or if anything that you like to share with us. We will begin. Next slide, please. Just a few housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. Participants, your video and audio is off. However, you have access to our chat and our Q&A box. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box and we will answer your questions and we'll love to hear your comments as well. So remember, the webinar is being recorded and will be available to you on our YouTube channel. Next slide. And again, this webinar is being brought to you by the City of Charleston's Business and Neighborhood Services, along with the South Carolina SBDC and the Klein Fund. My name is Ruth Jordan. I am the manager with the City of Charleston's Office of Women and Minority Business Enterprises. Our technical support operator is Christina Ott. She is our project coordinator with Business and Neighborhood Services, again, a division of the City of Charleston. And we have two rock star presenters today, and I'm excited to have them here on today. We have Mr. Paul Featheringill and also Mr. Jerry Jenkins, who is our development officer. And so we're going to do a quick intro. Next slide, please. But before I do the introductions, I want you to mark your calendar. You are in the webinar called Are You Ready to Borrow? Well, after this webinar, next month, July the 20th, we're going to have a lender matchmaking event. It's going to be called Meet the Lenders. We want to have a speed dating matchmaking opportunity just for you. We have over 13 lenders and capital providers that will be on Wednesday, July the 20th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. to be held at the Opportunity Center that's going to be located at 8570 River Avenue, North Charleston. So we want you to mark your calendars, but more importantly, go and register. Go to our webinar, our website to www.charleston-sc.gov/small business workshop. So put it on your calendar and go get registered because this is part of the part 2 series. So today is part 1, getting you ready to meet the lenders in July. Let's get started. Next slide, please. Well, there's a poll question. We want to hear from you. Although I can't see you, but I want to hear from you. And Christina, what is the poll question?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. So how soon are you looking to borrow money for your small business? Our options here are in the next 2 months, in the next 3 to 5 months, in the next 6 months to a year, over a year, or you're not quite sure yet. And I'll leave this up for a few more seconds so everyone can participate. Just waiting on a few more. All righty.
All right. What are the results, Christina?
Sure. It looks like the majority of you, about half, are looking to borrow in the next 2 months. So it would be perfect to listen closely today to get ready for our lender matchmaking event.
So those who are looking in the next couple of months, you definitely want to make sure that you put on your calendar next month, July 20th, to meet the lenders. It's going to be speed dating. We're going to have at least 12 to 13 lenders in the room, and maybe you can find a match. And so we're excited about that, but you need to get ready today to meet the lenders next month. Let's get started. Next slide, please. Our first rock star presenter is Mr. Paul Featheringill. Paul is the Regional Director of the Charleston Area Small Business Development Center. He's a native Charlestonian. He has a bachelor's degree in political science from USC. He has a master's degree in public administration from the University of Georgia. He has 5 years as a business officer for the City of Columbia, 4 years as a loan officer for the Charleston LDC, which is now the Klein Fund. I'd like to present to some and introduce to others our rock star number one, Mr. Paul Featheringill. Take it away, Paul.
Well, good morning, Ruth. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let me share my screen real quick. All right. Okay, can everybody see that? Good.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here today, and it's my pleasure. And I want to say thank you to Ruth and Christina and the City of Charleston for putting on this event and for including me in it. So what we want to do is we want to help you understand what you need to have in place to get ready to borrow, and you're going to hear that from two aspects today. After this, you're going to hear from Jerry Jenkins, who actually is a loan officer at the Klein Fund. So he's the one that you're going to go sit down with after this to find out about getting a loan. What I'm going to talk to you about is our role as the SBDC and how we can assist you in getting ready for that meeting, and also some things that you need to be thinking about and some things that you have that you need to have together. And as you might have noticed before, in my introduction, I used to sit in the chair that Jerry now sits in. So I've seen this. I've been on both sides of this particular part of the process, and I can talk about lending all day. It's one of my favorite things, but I promise I won't go on for that long. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about us. We are the Small Business Development Center. We are, for those of you who haven't heard of us, we are a statewide organization. Our office here in Charleston is actually in North Charleston, not very far from the Opportunity Center where the Lender Matchmaker event is going to be in a few weeks. And so what we do is we offer no-cost confidential consulting for you if you are trying to start a business, if you are in business and you're looking to grow, or you're looking for financial resources. We can help you do that. We can help you with business plans. We can help you with projections. We can help you with marketing. Basically, whatever stage of your business you are and whatever need you have, we can help you find the resources and then prepare you for those resources. One of the biggest things that we do in relation to lending, as I mentioned, is we help you put together those business plans and those projections. What's going to happen is when you go to Jerry, he's going to give you a long list of things that he needs for your loan application. And then you're going to come to us and you're going to say, I don't even know how to start on this. And that's where we can help you get that together so that when you go to Jerry, you're in the best position you can be to actually get that loan. So when you look at funding for your small business, what are some different options that you have? There's always personal funds, individual investors, grants, conventional bank financing, online lenders, crowdfunding, and different non-bank funding resources, which I'll talk about momentarily. These are some of your different options when you're thinking about where you go to fund your small business. Personal funds is one of the first things you want to think about. When somebody comes to me and says, I'm looking to borrow money for my business, one of the first things I ask them is, how much do you have on hand, or how much do you have invested in your business? So if you're already in business, what I'm going to ask you is, have you been tracking how much you've been investing? If you're not, if you're looking to start, what I'm going to tell you is then you need to start saving some money if you haven't already, because typically a lender is going to want to see at least 10 to 20% equity investment for a loan. What that means is whatever you're looking to borrow, let's say you need to borrow $100,000. That means that you need to either have $10 to $20,000 on hand to put into the business, or you need to have already invested it in your business. One of the cool things about a lender like Jerry is if you're already in business, he will account for any money that you've already put into your business toward that investment. So everything you're spending on your business right now, keep track of that, because all of that will help you when you go to get a loan. So have some money in savings. Some people look at home equity. There are people who look at borrowing against their home equity and also their retirement. However, we don't recommend that you take money out of your retirement to fund your business unless you absolutely have to. But those are some different options that you can look at. Individual investors. This is where you go to somebody and say, I need money to start a business. There's a number of ways you can do that. One of the most common places that people go is to family and friends. Makes sense. You know, you start with those you know and say, would you be willing to invest some money in my business? If you do that, what we generally recommend is make it official, get something in writing, because you don't want it to be awkward with the family when, you know, they give you some money to start your business and there's a misunderstanding about, is it a loan or is it a grant and when are they going to get repaid? So just make sure that you get something in writing if you're getting money from your family. There are venture capitalists out there. Those tend to be for larger dollar businesses, tech oriented businesses. But if any of you are in that space, we can make some of those connections for you. What's more common for small businesses is what's known as angel investors. If any of you have ever seen the Shark Tank show that comes on TV, this is similar to how that works, right? There are some different angel investing groups around here that you can go present to, and they will determine whether or not they want to invest in your business. Now, one of the questions you want to ask and one of the things you want to be careful of is, what's that going to mean? If somebody invests money in your business, they're either going to want you to pay some of it back. It's going to be a debt, or more commonly with angel investors, they're going to take an equity stake in your business, which means they are going to have some ownership stake in your business. And so you want to understand what kind of return they're looking for on that investment and how much of an ownership stake they're going to take. I was working with a client one day and he had gotten so many equity investors over the years to get money into his business that he was down to owning less than 10% of his business, which he had started himself. And so those are the kinds of things that you want to be careful of. And the other thing I would say here is that's where having somebody like us, a consultant from SBDC, can really help you, because we can point you in the direction of some of those resources and also help you understand some of the questions that you need to ask and some of the things that you need to understand as you go into the lending space. So grants. So this is what I want to say about grants. Oftentimes we get asked about grants. There aren't a whole lot of them out there for starting or expanding a small business. You know, since COVID, since the pandemic, there have been a few more entities that have started offering grants. I saw at one point where Visa had a grant program they were offering. Wells Fargo, I think, had one. Richland County in the Columbia area has been doing one recently. But what you find typically with the grants is that they are very, very competitive. So when something comes along, you're going to be competing with a lot of different people for that money. And typically it's smaller loan amounts. What we've been seeing is typically $5,000 or less. So it's not necessarily going to be enough to fund the entirety of what you need to get your business going. If you are interested in looking, there's a website called grants.gov. What we tell people is we don't necessarily keep a list of grants in our office. If we find some that are available, we'll generally share those with our clients. But if you find something that you think you qualify for, by all means, we can help you put that application package together, because it's going to be similar for a grant or for a loan in terms of, you know, they're going to want to see some kind of business plan. They're going to want to see, you know, some kind of financial statement or financials of how the business is going to operate. So we can help you put that together. One space where the SBA does offer grants is if you are looking at if you have developed an invention or a new technology of some sort, and you're looking to take that to market, they have what's called an SBIR, a Small Business Innovation and Research, and a Small Business Technology Transfer. If any of you are in kind of that technology space and you've created something that you're trying to get to market, we have a consultant specifically that can help you with that. And then on the agribusiness side, if you are in any kind of agribusiness, there are grant opportunities for that as well, which we have a specialist that can help you on that front as well. So if you're in one of those spaces, there's more opportunities. But by all means, if you find something that you think you might qualify for, let us know and we can help you with that. Conventional bank financing. So this is when you go to wherever you bank, you know, your Wells Fargo, your Bank of America, even your local credit union, or your local bank. The issue that you're going to have a lot of times with conventional banks that we see that a lot of our small business clients have is, number one, time in business. The first thing that a bank is going to ask you for, and Jerry used to work for Bank of America before he came over here. So if I say something wrong, Jerry, by all means tell me. But the first thing they're going to ask you for is 2 years of business tax returns, right? They're going to want to see that you've been in business for at least 2 years before they will look at your loan application. So time in business is a big one. They will look at your personal and business credit if you have it. But loan amount is another one. You know, a lot of times for a conventional bank to be interested, they're going to want to see at least a $300,000 or more loan. If it's less than that, that's where a lender like Jerry is going to come in, where, you know, they're going to be a better resource for you, because there just isn't as much return on investment on the smaller loans. And so banks, because they have to worry about that sort of thing, they're not going to be as interested in doing that. Now, there are programs through SBA, which I'll talk about more a little bit later. There's a 504 program for property investment and a 7A for working capital and inventory and equipment. That's a loan guarantee program that you can get through SBA, where you can work with a bank to get financing that way. But I'll talk a little bit more about those later. There's online lenders. You can go on to, and you might have heard of some of these: On Deck, Cabbage, Lending Club, Prosper. What you find with these, and again, this is where I say, make sure you read the fine print and make sure you know what you're signing up for, because they can get you money very, very quickly, generally 48 hours or less. But what we generally say, what I used to say as a lender, is the easier it is for you to get money, the more it's going to cost you to have it. Okay, so you can get this money pretty quickly, but it's going to come with higher interest and fees and shorter terms. So there was a period of time when I was at Climb Fund where we were doing refinance of some of these loans. And what we saw was people who were signed up for loans where they were paying, you know, $300, $400, $500 a day that was coming directly out of their business bank account. And, you know, the interest rate would be similar to a credit card, you know, 10, 12, 15%. But when you added in all the interest and all the fees and everything that went with that, we saw them. The worst one I ever saw was 80%, but typically you would see them somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 or 50 or 60%. So they're not all bad, but you want to be very careful. And that's where I would encourage you to get some guidance from us or from Jerry or somebody else. You know, send us something and say, I'm looking at this deal. Is this a good deal? So that we can help you understand if it's something that you should do.
I'm sorry,
Crowdfunding.
Paul,
Yeah.
Paul, did you just say that somebody was paying 40% in interest?
Well, it's what it is. It's a combination of interest and fees. And so there's the combination of what a lot of these lenders will do is they'll charge you your interest that is going to compound either daily, weekly, monthly, depending on how it is. But then there's also fees associated with that typically you'll pay either annually or quarterly. But when you put all that in together, effectively, it comes out to about 40%. Yeah.
Oh my God. So they're like predatory lenders.
Very much so. And that's why you want to be careful of that. And that's why I say, read the fine print and ask questions, because not all of that is bad, but you want to make sure that you know what you're signing up for, because you know, the vicious circle that they're trying to get you into that I see a lot, unfortunately, is that you have to borrow more money from them to pay the stuff you've already borrowed from them.
So you know, that's why it's good to have somebody like SBDC, the South Carolina Small Business Development Center, look at those kinds of applications before you sign the dotted line.
That's exactly right.
And Paul, if I may add one quick thing, I've always told some of my clients, if you go to a traditional bank and if you can't get funding, most definitely go to a CDFI. If you can't get funding from a CDFI, then it's not time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And you're
using those acronyms. I'm sorry.
Yeah, please.
Jerry, you're using those acronyms.
I'm sorry.
CDFI. What does that stand for?
That's Community Development Financial Institution. And thank you for that. Yeah. Community Development Financial Institution, which is what the Climb Fund is.
And they exist pretty much exclusively to help businesses, small businesses that are not able to get traditional bank financing, either because of time in business, loan amount, credit issues, whatever that might be. And, you know, Jerry's exactly right. I mean, they can be much more creative in their lending. If they're not able to do it either, then you need to sit down with them, or you need to sit down with me, and we need to work up a plan to say, okay, how do we get you ready? Because you're not there yet. So how do we get you to the point where you are ready?
Okay.
Crowdfunding can be another option. Some of you might have heard of Kickstarter, GoFundMe, some of these. They do have business components where you can go on and you can, it's free to set up a page on there. You can do a pitch for funding and people can invest in your business. And people, typically what businesses will offer is some kind of discount for investors, or something like that to encourage people to invest. And remember, I told you early on that most lenders, if you go to Jerry or another lender, he's going to want to see 10 to 20%, if not more, that you've already put in. These are options for where you can get that equity to put in. If you don't have all the cash on your own, then you can look at crowdfunding, you can look at family and friends, you can look at some of these things as options to help you get that money. And then non-bank financing, these are the CDFIs, like Jerry mentioned. The SBA loan programs, where you can get them to guarantee a loan program, venture capital. I won't spend a lot of time going through these, but these are just some of the other options that you have. Again, I would suggest you talk to somebody before you sign up for one of these to see if it's right for you. One of the other ones I'll warn you about is merchant cash advances. And the way that works is, if you get a, some kind of payroll processing system or not payroll, I'm sorry. If you get some kind of credit card processing machine, one of the first things that'll happen is they'll contact you and say, we can give you working capital and you can borrow against your sales and we'll just deduct it directly from your daily sales that you process through that machine, which is fine, except again, you can get caught in some really high interest and fees on some of those. So you want to be careful. You want to read the fine print. And again, ask me, ask Jerry, just to make sure that what you're signing up for is a good deal. So what you should know, there's no such thing as 100% financing. So you're going to have, as we said, that minimum equity investment. Your personal credit history is important. So if you don't know what your credit score is before you go to borrow any money, I don't care if you're going to buy a car, buy a house, or get a business loan, you need to pull your credit report and find out what's on there. Because what you find is a lot of times there's stuff on there that shouldn't be there and it's impacting your score, or it's something that you can easily take care of and it's impacting your score. So you want to get that taken care of before you borrow money. For somebody like Jerry, you're going to want to have at least a 620. Is that fair, Jerry?
Yes.
For most of the banks, you're going to want to have at least 680 to 700. So if you're not in that range, you're going to want to work on that to help get that taken care of. You are going to have some kind of collateral, either the assets of the business, your home, your vehicle, something, depending on how much you're looking to borrow. A personal guarantee is going to be required. That means you are going to pledge that if the business isn't able to repay the loan, that you will do it out of your personal resources. And looking at other guarantors is oftentimes an option as well. If you have a spouse, look to sign them on as a guarantor. If you've got other friends, family members, anything like that, they can come on as guarantors to pledge their assets as well. That can oftentimes help you, whether it's with Jerry or somebody else, get to that point where they're able to do the loan. And I'm going to run through these kind of quickly because I want to leave Jerry plenty of time. Are we taking questions at the end, Ruth? Is that how we're doing this?
Yes, well, matter of fact, if you do have some burning questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A box, because Christina and I are constantly monitoring the Q&A box. So
Okay.
Put your questions in the Q&A box, or you can hold your questions towards the end. But
Great.
I know that Paul can answer the questions right now on the spot, because we will have a couple seconds. So
Good.
Please put your questions in the Q&A box.
Okay. So if there's any questions, just let me know. So here's what you need for your loan application, basically, for what you're going to take to Jerry or another lender. You're going to need a business plan, which is basically how you define your business, how it's going to operate, what's my background that helps us to know where I'm going to be successful in this business. And it also tells us how you're going to market it, because if you don't market the business and you don't have customers, if you don't have customers and sales, you're not in business. So you really need to get to, we need to see how you're going to market this business to make sure that you have customers. But it's for you. It's to help you understand how you are going to operate this business. We can help you put this together. This can be a scary process. We can give you templates. We can walk you through it. We can help you put it together. Please, 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 please do not pay somebody to do a business plan for you, because there's two things for that. Number one, we'll help you with it for free. It's not something you need to pay for. Number two, and I hope I'm not speaking out of school here, but the way it used to be when I was at Climb Fund, if somebody else wrote the business plan for you, we would not accept it, because what that told us was you don't know anything about how this business is going to operate because you haven't gone through this process yourself. So let us sit down and work with you and help you through this process.
So can you repeat that again? Do not pay somebody to do your business plan for you.
So, and then other things that you're going to need to have for your loan application is going to help the lender decide whether or not to do the loan. I mentioned credit history. If you haven't looked at your credit history recently, make sure you do that. And you're also going to want to make sure you let the lender know through your business plan, what are my qualifications? What is my background? What helps us to know that I'm going to be successful, especially if you've never owned a business before. Now, I know that everybody's got to start somewhere, so we can help you get there. But that's going to be a big deal if you haven't owned a business before, for us to see that you can do this successfully, that you have the experience and the qualifications to do this.
And Paul, if I may add,
Please.
One thing also we take is your resume. Include your resume with your business.
Include your resume as part of that. If you're already in business, you're going to want to provide at least whatever business financials you have. If it's a few months, if it's a year, if it's a couple of years, so that the lender can see, how is this business done with managing their finances? Can they pay an extra loan payment? How is this investment going to impact their financials? If you're not in business, what you're going to need to have is 3 years of projections, and we can help you do that. That's another thing that's really, really scary about doing a loan application, because what you're going to have to do is think through, how's my business going to do? How's it going to perform? How long is it going to take me to get profitable with this business so that I can make this loan payment? Because you know what, Jerry is one of the nicest guys I've ever met, but you know what, no matter what else, he's going to want you to pay that loan back. He can get a little scary if you're not paying that loan back. So what we need to be able to show him is, can I get to the point where I can pay that loan back? And one of the things—
I have a question.
Yeah.
Someone says, you said you could have a personal guarantee for the loan.
Yep.
I was told that if you have an LLC, you were not personally liable. Can you explain the difference between personal guarantee and having an LLC where you are not personally liable? That's a question.
Absolutely. So yes, it is generally true that with an LLC, you are not personally liable for any of the debts of the business, which is why you sign a personal guarantee. Because what the personal guarantee says is that despite the fact that I've got an LLC, I am still guaranteeing that if this business is not able to repay this debt, I will repay it personally.
Exactly.
Does that make sense? Because otherwise what a lender hears is, well, I'm not going to repay this loan and I don't want somebody coming after my personal assets, right?
Exactly.
So, and from a lender—
and it's amazing, people do think, oh, just because I'm in partnership with the LLC that I don't have to pay the money.
Right.
Well, everyone has to qualify at some point in time,
and so that's what
qualify.
Yeah. And so that's what the personal guarantee does, is it says, even though I've got an LLC, I am signing this separate document that says I will be personally responsible for the loan.
And Paul, just real quick, that's on every loan doc that we fund.
Every single one.
every single one, that you can't escape just because you have an LLC. You are personally guaranteeing that loan also.
Exactly. And other two questions, and then you can get back to your slides.
Yep.
Someone wrote, I'm having problems getting qualified because of my credit. Can you
Yep.
help me with a business plan as well as to help me qualify for grants?
We can absolutely help with the business plan. And as far as credit, what I would look at, one of the things, and we can get you connected with them. Ruth mentioned the lender matchmaker event that's happening at the Opportunity Center in a few weeks. One of the components of the Opportunity Center is an organization called Increasing Hope, which is the host organization for the Women's Business Center here. And one of the things that they have that they can work with you on is a credit building program, a credit repair program. So I can get you connected with them as well if that's something that you need. But if you haven't already, the other thing is you want to look at your credit report to see what the issue is, because it might be something that you can take care of yourself, because there's stuff that doesn't get reported the way it should. There's stuff that doesn't roll off the way it should. And these are all things that can impact your score that sometimes you can take care of those yourself. But we can also connect you with a reputable credit repair. That's another thing. Talk with us about that before you do that, because there's a whole lot of people out there who claim that they can repair your credit, and they will be very, very happy to take your money and you will never see them again. So that's something else that you want to talk with us about before you do that.
And last question, how about decent credit? Poor debt to income ratio though.
Mhm.
If you have made a decent amount of money for your business in a short period of time, can that help make up for the debt to income ratio? Should I pay myself? I'm just starting out and I'm just starting up, and I'm not going to get rid of my debts anytime soon because of the debt to income ratio. But they do have decent credit. And then they said, should I pay myself?
Yes, you should absolutely pay yourself. Okay. As soon as you can. Now, we all understand that there are going to be times when you're not able to pay yourself as a small business owner because you got to make payroll or whatever else. But yes, you should absolutely, because here's the reality. If you're not paying yourself, then it's not going to be very long before you start to say, why am I doing this? And you decide to walk away from it. Okay. Now, as far as your debt to income, yes, that is going to be a factor. And Jerry, I'm sure we'll talk about that more on his part of the presentation, something that they're going to look at. We would encourage you to pay down debts as much as you can before you go to get another business loan, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to pay everything off. Okay. But anyway, I'm sure I will actually defer to him and he can address that a little bit more in his part of the presentation.
And just quickly, what defines a small business? Is it the number of employees or the value of the loan?
Well, so the definition of a small business, if you go by the SBA's definition, is, I believe, 500 employees or less and $5 million in revenue or less. Now, I don't know how many of you are at that level. I don't consider that to be a small business if you've got 500 employees and 5 million in revenue. But that's typically what the definition would be. So if you're under those two things, then you qualify. Now, most of the businesses that we work with, honestly, and I don't know what Jerry would say about their profile right now, but from our side of things as SBDC, our typical client, I would say, is 500,000 or less in revenue and probably 10 employees or less is probably, I would say, where our typical. We're probably more so about 5 employees and 200,000 or 300,000 in revenue is kind of the typical of what we see.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, go ahead, Paul.
So you're going to have some kind of collateral. As I said, that's going to be your house, that's going to be your car, that's going to be your business assets, whatever it is. Now, if you go to a traditional bank, they're going to want you to have 1.25 times as much collateral as the loan. So that means if you're borrowing $100,000, you need to have $125,000 worth of collateral to put in. Jerry, as I mentioned, is a super nice guy. He's not going to require you to have quite that much, but you're going to have something. Because again, if you say, well, I don't want you to take my house or I don't want you to take my car, that tells me that you're going to take my money and not pay me back. So you're going to have to offer something as collateral for these loans. And remember, personal guarantees can be, so in other words, you're going to have to personally guarantee the loan, but if you have somebody else that's got some assets that you can bring on as a personal guarantor, that can be a source of collateral as well. These are some examples, as I mentioned. You're going to have some of your own capital to put in, at least 10 to 20%. Prior investment will count toward that. Your business financial history, as I mentioned, you're going to want to have your profit and loss, your balance sheet, your cash flow if you're in business. If not, you're going to want to have projections. And then conditions. They're going to look at conditions. So does this make sense what you're going to do? Does the industry make sense? How are you going to market this? Are you going to be able to pick up customers? Does your location make sense? Who is your competition? And do you understand who your competition is? And these are all things that we can help you with is the market research, figuring out your competition and how you've done it, how you're going to do it. Because, one of the first questions you have to answer is, why do we need this business? Why is somebody going to get this business or service from you and not from somebody else? And so those are the kinds of questions you need to answer as part of your business plan. And then sources and uses of funds. Know how much you need and how you're going to use it. When you sit down with a lender, when you sit down with Jerry and he says, okay, how much do you need? The absolute worst thing you can say, and I'm just going to tell you right now, the worst answer to that question is, well, how much can I borrow? That is the absolute worst answer to that question, because what I need you to do is to understand how much you need. And that's what we can help you do before you even go to Jerry, is to figure out how much you need and how you're going to use it. Because, and here's the thing, you would be surprised how many times I say to somebody, you're not borrowing enough money. You need to ask for more money. Because oftentimes people, and I understand it, because you don't like to take on any more debt than you have to. And I understand, I don't like to do it either. But you also don't want to undercapitalize your business, because that's a sure way to make sure you're not going to make it. Okay. So that's one thing. Before you even go sit down with Jerry, you need to have a solid handle on how much you need and how you're going to use it. And we can help you to do that. And then projections. 3 years of projections, monthly the first year, profit and loss and cash flow. Now, I've got these in here, which you'll see. I'm not going to go through these right now. But what I'm going to tell you is come and sit down and talk to us, and we'll help you go through those. Because what we're trying to see from the projections is, what do you think your revenue and expenses are going to be? How long is it going to take you to be profitable? And can you afford to make this loan payment? But one of the biggest parts of this is your cash flow too, which is helping us understand, based on your sales, based on your revenue projections, do you have cash coming into the business when you need it? Okay, so for example, if let's say that you have a seasonal business, which means, let's say you run an ice cream stand or something like that. So the majority of your sales are going to be May, June, July, and August, right? But you still have bills you have to pay in January, February, March, and April, right? You got to pay rent, you got to pay payroll, you got to do all these things. So how do we make sure that you have enough cash coming through the business to make those payments? So in the interest of time and in the interest of not scaring you too bad, I'm not going to go through all the details of this, but what I will say is, come sit down with me. We will help you put this together before you even go to Jerry, so that we can figure out what your projections are going to look like. So this is my contact information. Call me or email me. I'd be happy to set up a time with you. Jerry, I left you about 20 minutes to go through your section. And does anybody have any questions?
I think the last question, Paul, was lending or funding for nonprofits versus for-profit business. Is there a differentiation between funding for nonprofits and for-profits business?
Here's what I will say. No, really, there is not. And what I mean by that, Jerry, can you guys lend to nonprofits now or not? You're muted.
Sorry, Paul. No, we do not. We do not lend to nonprofits.
So the difference is going to be finding a lender that will lend to nonprofits, because some will and some won't. But as far as the process you're going to go through, as far as the business plan and putting the financials together and doing all that, it's no different because, you know, as a nonprofit, what that does is it means you don't have to pay taxes on your business. It means that you could potentially be eligible for more grants than a for-profit business does. But other than that, it operates exactly the same way as a for-profit business. You still have revenue, you still have expenses, and you still have to plan for those things. And so, yeah, I mean, essentially what it would mean is we would have to find a lender that does nonprofits. But other than that, no, there's really no difference as far as what you're going to need.
Okay, well, thank you, Paul.
Thank
Now
you.
you're going to hear from rock star number 2. We call
He's
him
really the rock star.
Jerry
I'm really
J.
the opening act. So this is the guy you want to hear.
Not at all.
Well, you're a hard act to follow. So we have our next presenter, Mr. Jerry J. Jenkins of the Klein Fund, who, when everybody else have said no, tried the Klein Fund. And so we're going to be having our next presenter, Mr. Jerry J. Jenkins, and he's going to go through the application workshop. Go ahead, Jerry.
All right, thank you, Ruth. And Paul is always hard to follow, but I love to follow him because he do all the heavy lifting for me. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna run through this pretty quickly, just to let you know who the Klein Fund is. The Klein Fund was established back in 1979 with the city of Charleston. And basically what we do, we help fund small businesses across the state of South Carolina. Our core mission is minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and women-owned businesses. With that being said, we lend to everyone. Okay, so that's why we call ourselves mission lenders, basically. So we are a nonprofit, a not-for-profit organization, as I stated, and we are a community development financial institution. I stated earlier, if you go to a traditional bank and you can't get funding, you can definitely find a community development financial institution across the state of South Carolina. We hope you come to us. But if for some reason we can't lend you funding, we tell our clients, go back to the South Carolina Development Center, Business Development Center, to get that help that you need. Because once, if a CDFI cannot lend to you, then you're really kind of moving into that predatory type of lending, where you can get the money you need, but it's going to come at a very high price. All right. As I just give a little history in the Klein Fund, over our 42 years, we've lent over 500, we made over 500 loans. We've lent over $25 million. We've created over 3,500 jobs, over 500 units of affordable housing. And just so that you know, we only do affordable housing for the city of Charleston. We do not do affordable housing for anywhere else, but the city of Charleston must be approved through the city of Charleston. One important note is that 93 successful repayment on loans. We are very intentional about that. What is so great about the Klein Fund is that we have what is called TA, technical assistance, that we give all our borrowers. After the loan is made, say you need help in accounting, counting your books, QuickBooks. We have a QuickBooks consultant that we pay for, free service to you, that the Klein Fund pays for, that will get in contact with you and help you understand QuickBooks. We also have a restaurant consultant for the front and back house. We have HR consultant. We have a social media consultant that will help you develop your social media presence, or if you already have a presence, it helps you to increase that or get higher on the Google lookup side. So we have consultants that can really help you once the loan is made. And also, if you look at some of the businesses that you may recognize that we helped got started. This is a breakdown. I'm not going to go through this very much. This is a breakdown of the businesses of our portfolio of what we currently have. And you can see that we make loans to everyone from food and bev to manufacturing, wholesale, transportation, consumer services, retail. So we have a portfolio of several different types of businesses. And we're not a bank. the first thing I tell my clients, we're not a bank, we don't compete with banks, we work with banks. So if you come to us, the first thing we will need from you is your business plan. Paul said it so correctly. Please don't go out and pay anyone to build your business plan. One of the best business plans I've ever seen was a young guy who actually had it written in pencil. He had everything down, he had it perfect, he could be able to erase the things he wanted to increase or deduct something. So that was a great business plan. So please don't pay anyone to go and develop your business plan. We can send you to the SBDC, we can send you to the small, to the Women's Business Center, we can send you to the Chamber of Commerce and SCORE to help develop your business plan. The next thing we will need from you is a proof of declination of credit. What that means is before we can make you a loan, we must have a decline letter from a traditional bank. Now you may ask, why is that needed? That is needed because our rates are higher, a little bit higher than traditional banks. So we want to make sure that you cannot qualify for a traditional loan through traditional financial institution, because we want to get you the best deal possible. So if you have been declined by a traditional bank, we will need that letter. It does not have to be per se a declination where the bank actually ran your credit. If you speak with a personal banker and they tell you that they do not offer the particular loan that you need, for instance, most traditional banks don't do startup loans. If they tell you we don't do startup loans, if you can get the name of the loan officer and the telephone number in the bank or the financial institution where he works, that will be enough for us. We don't want you actually going through the process of having to be turned down if you don't have to, because that can also affect your credit. To apply a decline from is very easy. You can contact me. I'll give my information at the end of this, or you can go to www.clientfund.org. Right there, you see, and you can apply that org/apply. Right. Our average loan size is about $70,000. We say that we don't have a minimum or a max. We can lend as much as $2,000. We have lent as much as $1 million for affordable housing, but we don't have a maximum or a minimum. Our interest rates kind of fall between 2% to 11%. Now at 2%, that's a special case where I will get into that a little later, but that's through a funding through Wells Fargo, but you have to qualify for that. Our normal average percentage rate is around 8.25. There is a program participation fee of $125. That fee must be paid prior to us starting the process, and that just offsets the cost of pulling your credit report and pulling the CABIS report, which tell us whether you have any default in a federal agency. And I want to say real quickly, if you have a default in a federal agency, such as college loan or a loan that you borrowed through the federal government that was not paid, please let us know, because that gives us a hard stop. We have to work with you to actually get those payments back active. So that's a discussion that we can have. Let's get started. So I'm gonna go real quickly. John Zitter is our Director of Lending. So basically, as I stated, going quick, your business plan, if you don't have one, we definitely need one. We will refer you to these agencies to get that started. And Paul kind of went through this, what we need when we look at funding, character, your capacity to pay, your collateral. We definitely need collateral. Basically, all our loans of $50,000 or more must have some type of collateral. Now, there are two types of collaterals we talk about. There is commercial collateral, which we will use a UCC, commercial collateral code, on the assets of the business that are currently existing and the equipment that you're going to purchase with the funds that we're lending. That's commercial. We also ask for personal collateral. That personal collateral, which Paul talked about, is real estate. Any vehicles that have a free lien on, or any other equipment that you may have. That's why it's so important. If you're starting your business, if you have purchased equipment, keep a list of those assets and their values, we can use that as personal collateral also. I'm gonna just run through these. Okay, so Paul kind of talked about also key documents. So once we, one of the things he talked about, sources of funds. So many times I meet with clients, and the first thing I ask them, like Paul said, well, how much do you need? And they say, how much can you lend me? That's a hard work question. That tells us that you have not been thinking about what you need to start your business. So this is a quick example. You see, it's a breakdown. $20,000 for equipment, furniture, and fixtures. That's $40,000. Salaries, that's important. We want you to include wages in your loan request because, as Paul stated again, if you don't get paid, eventually you're going to walk away from your business. So we want you to include at least 3 months of wages for yourself and for your employees that you're going to hire, not future employees, but employees that you're going to hire from the day you open your door. Also, what's important is lease payments. Try to include at least 6 months of lease payments in your requested loan amount. We don't want you to open your doors trying to sell your widgets to pay your rent. I break down supplies, licenses, working capital. So all these things are important to include, in your request of funds. And this is a personal financial statement that we will send you a template. It basically just tells us all your assets and all your liabilities. Don't let this scare you away. If your net worth is negative, that's okay. We're not looking at that. We're just basically looking to see how much capital you have on hand, how much you have in savings, and basically what type of debt that you have. Although we're going to pull it from the credit report, we like to see it on the personal financial statement, and we will send this out to you.
So Jerry, did you say even if I have a negative net worth, that I should still complete that?
Most definitely, yeah, because we're not looking to see what your net worth is. What we're actually looking to see are the other things. Do you have any capital savings? Do you have any capital put away? We're looking to see what type of assets that you have in terms of equipment. So that bottom line, your net worth, yeah, we would like it to be positive, but that's not a stopgap measure for us. We want to look at everything else.
And just very quickly, even if and so sometimes people don't realize that their 401k, their IRAs, and all of those are considered collateral as well, right?
Exactly. We can use that also. Also, if you have which is not very common anymore, but a full life policy. A lot of policies are term, but if you have a whole life policy, yes. But we have to show proof of that. Then we also can use that also.
And that's paid in full, right?
Paid in full, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Paid in full. And people don't realize that's money, that's access, that's capital. That's money that they forgot that they have access to.
Right. So much. And Paul went through a lot of what he was going to say, but mainly what I want to tell you is that the client fund, we're here to help you. More than just lend you money, what we're here to do is help you grow through our TA services. Some of the greatest things we do actually begins after the loan is done. Paul mentioned one thing about credit score. Paul is correct. 620 is a sweet spot that we like to look at, but guess what? I've gone down to 530 and made loans because we like to say every situation is different. For instance, if you have a bankruptcy that have affect your credit score, tell us about it. We know COVID happened in 2020. It affects several people. Your credit was affected. We understand that. So we want you to tell us about that. So we like to say that every case sits in its own bottom. We want to hear about it. Now, really quickly, our process of funding loans. Basically, once I get your information, it goes into the intake coordinator. Once our checklist is completed, basically if you're an existing or a startup business, once that's completed, we will let you know that now your checklist is completed. It's going into a loan officer's portal. That loan officer is going to pull it and start working on it. From the time the loan officers get your application, that's when the clock starts to tick. There is a 30 to 60 day period, possible period where we fund that loan. A lot of that is driven by you. If the loan officer need any additional information, try to get it to them as quickly as possible. If you fail to get them information, guess what happens? Your loan will go to the bottom and another application comes up. So that's why it's important that you try to get that on that loan officer, whether it's me or anyone else, that information as quickly as possible. So please, guys, Client Fund is here to help you in any way possible. And we're across the state of South Carolina now. So if you need us, we're here. These are some of the businesses that we've helped got started. And you may see some of these and recognize who they are. But I love this part because it makes me feel good that we've helped all these small businesses get started.
And Jerry, if I could add one more thing about credit, you mentioned getting the loan, the bank declination, and if you could just get somebody from the bank to send you an email, or even if you get a something from the bank that says they don't do small business fund startup businesses. The reason that's important, honestly, is because you don't want to get your credit pulled any more times than you have to.
Most
And
definitely.
so one of the things that we can help you with is, because a bank might tell you that they will look at your application and they'll pull your credit and they'll do all that stuff, but they're probably not going to. So you're basically getting your credit pulled when you don't need to. So let us help you to determine what are actually some good lenders for you so that you don't have it pulled any. It's no guarantee that if you go to Jerry, you're going to get funded, but I know you got a better chance than you do if you go to, Wells Fargo, for example, or anybody else like that. So that's something to keep in mind too.
Right. Paul, you said it perfect, most definitely. And one last thing. If you need a guarantor, please, the guarantor is not an owner. They're not an owner, but they are saying that if for some reason you fail to pay, we guarantee that we will make sure this loan is paid. And we do ask for guarantors sometimes in a case where you are not yes.
Right. They don't have to be owners. They can be anybody as long as they have assets that they're willing to guarantee to repayment of the loan.
So you're saying I can call my parents, and if my parents is willing to sign for me?
Yep.
To be a guarantor?
Yes. Yes, most definitely. We've done several
very
loans
good.
with parents.
There is a question, and please put your questions in the Q&A box. Someone wrote, if I'm getting a loan $50,000 and below, how is that approved and by whom? Is that a separate approval process? I guess Jackie wants to know. Below 50,000 is approved by whom? Is it easier to qualify for a smaller amount of for loans?
Well, Paul said this so well a few minutes ago. What we want to make sure is that whether it's 50,000 over 50,000, that we're meeting your need to move forward. We don't want you to under loan yourself or over loan yourself. But the $50,000 decline fund, it does go through a staff approval, which basically the owner basically have nothing to do with that. But yes, $50,000 requires to go through a staff approval. It does not have to go through the board for approval. So to answer that question, yes, but doesn't make it any less, in time frame. It may make it a little bit shorter because we don't have to wait to a board meeting or call an ad hoc meeting. But time frame is a little different. But in terms of what we need to qualify you, no, all of it is the same.
There's another question, says, how does one find a grantor? That seems like quite a guarantor. That seems like quite a big ask.
Well,
how do you find somebody who?
Well, Ms. Ruth, you stated before, it can be your parents, it can be any family member, it can be a friend. I know Paul talked about before that there have been a business I started that some of the people in the community wanted to get together and make sure this business got started, so they became guarantors. But whoever, they must qualify. But if somebody believes in your business and they believe in you, then yes, then it shouldn't be an issue. But I can understand the concern behind it. What do you think about that, Paul?
I wanted to clarify something. So if you get a loan from Climb Fund or anybody else, you're going to have to personally guarantee it, which means you personally, no matter what, you personally are going to have to sign a guarantee. Now, not everyone is going to have to get an outside guarantor. If you don't have that, but you have some other kind of collateral you can offer, you have a car, you have a house, you have additional, whatever it is, then you don't need one. But if you don't have those things, then finding an outside guarantor can be a good option for you to make some of that up. Does that make sense? Did that clarify it at all?
Yeah, exactly. And typically a guarantor, it would be like, take for instance, well, I don't quite qualify to get that car and I need my parents to co-sign for it. It's like a co-signer.
Right.
And so that's
exactly what
that's
it
the
is.
word we use, a co-signer.
Right.
And so that's the word you would use. You find a co-signer who would co-sign with to help guarantor or guarantee that you will repay this monies back. Now, the last question, and then we want to hit one big point. If you qualify for a loan, but you don't use all the funds immediately, do you pay on what you're using or the whole amount? So that's a tricky question, but I know what they're trying to say. So if you qualify for a loan and you get the funds and you don't immediately use all of it, do you have to pay it back on the whole amount or just the amount that you've used?
No.
So I guess they're basically talking about a line of credit.
Right, that's what we're talking about. That's two different things. All our loans are fixed rate. So whatever loan amount you get, you will pay a certain amount on those loans. If you get a line of credit, then that's a little different. Talking about a line of credit, we do them for $25,000. But majority of our loans are basically are fixed rate loans. The term, I'll go through a term, installment term. So you'll be paying on the amount that you borrow. But one good quick thing I want to tell you also is that also in terms of collateral, we can do what is called, we started doing a lot of, if you have cash that you want to put up as collateral, we also can use cash by putting it into a CD and we can then insure collateral against that CD. So that's another thing that come up recently, where some people are having some large cash, they don't necessarily doesn't have like a real estate collateral, but they have cash as collateral that we can convert into a CD and use that as collateral.
Okay.
Can I add
Paul, you
something
about
real?
to say something before I make this last great announcement?
Yeah, I saw a question in the chat about SSBCI. That's
Yeah.
something that there was some information that came out about recently. SSBCI is for organizations like us, like Climb Fund, to apply for funding to develop technical assistance programs and other things like that. It wouldn't be money that's available for individual business owners to apply for unless one of the entities that gets the money sets up some kind of individual loan program with it. But to my knowledge, that it's not going to be used for that. It's going to be used for us to be able to provide additional services at no cost to our clients. It's not for individual businesses to borrow. So I just wanted to clarify that because I saw there was a question about it.
Yeah. Great point, Paul. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for catching that. Slides will be made available post the session, but you need to complete the survey. Make sure you complete the survey at the end of this. And I want to remind you, please sign up for the lender matchmaking event. Now, we are highly encouraging you to bring your business plan to this lender matchmaking event, because we want to make sure that through the speed dating of lender matchmaking opportunity on July 20th, that you come prepared, because they want to see that business plan so that they can immediately say, hey, you may be someone that we can help. And so we want to make sure that you have every opportunity to get the funding that you need. And one good thing about it is that there are going to be at least 12 to 13 different lenders that will be in the building on July 20th over at the Opportunity Center at 8570 Rivers Avenue. This is being sponsored by SBA. That's the Small Business Administration by the U.S. government, Small Business Administration, along with the city of Charleston, that will be hosting this event. And we want to make sure that you are prepared. So please, 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 if you don't have your business plan, you need to contact Paul Featheringgill there at SBDC to help you get that business plan done. The contact information is here. You see it on the screen. Paul's phone number is 843-740-6164. And Jerry's is 843-619-0189. And you also see their email addresses. Y'all, please contact them. Come prepared to get ready to meet the lenders on July 20th. And again, thank you for participating, and make sure you take our survey. This was brought to you by the City of Charleston, Women Minority Business Enterprise, a division of Business and Neighborhood Services. We are here to help you thrive and grow. We want each of your businesses. And again, I want to thank the two rock stars of our presenters today, Mr. Paul Featheringgill and Jerry J. Jenkins. Thank you for such an informative webinar. I will tell you, every time I hear Paul and I hear Jerry, I learn something new every single time. So again, thank you all for participating. Again, please feel free to contact our office here at the City of Charleston, Ruth Jordan and Christina Ott. What can I say about our Zoom project engineer? Christina, thank you for a job well done. It's without her, these webinars would not go as smoothly as they have been. We have become the experts in presenting these business webinars, but we want to see you in the place in July 20th. So see you there, July 20th at the Matchmaking Lending Opportunity. Thank you very much, and see you next month.